All information in this program is known to be accurate at the time of recording. Any commentary by the host is for discussion purposes only. Anyone labeled a person of interest by the host or family has not been charged with a crime. All suspects charged with crimes related or unrelated to a case covered are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Opinions and views expressed by the host do not represent views of the families or sponsors of this program.
Seems like we're right back at it again. Another night fighting a losing battle that will never win. Caught up in the wind when it calls my name on a broken wheel. Is it ever gonna turn around?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grim Street Podcast, episode 45. I'm Steve Stone. Before we get into the video, if you're new to the channel and you're not familiar with what we do, I profile missing persons cases that aren't covered by legacy media, mainstream media, local media. And sometimes law enforcement aren't even looking into these cases. We profile them. We talk to the families. We talk to as many people as we can to get the story out on what's going on, in the hopes that maybe you might have information that could bring a loved one home to their family. If you're interested in becoming a person who helps, there's only one thing you need to do, and that's subscribe to the Grim Truth Podcast YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the Grim Truth Podcast or any other content related to the missing. Make sure you like and share these videos. Comment down below. Help spread the word. Help beat the YouTube algorithm and get these videos out there to everybody that is willing to watch them. If you want to take it a step further, you can join and become a member of the Grim Guardians. Now, this is a membership that we offer here on the channel that you can join, and you're going to get a couple of cool things. You're going to get behind the scenes footage of what goes on. You're also going to get behind the scenes videos of me working some of these cases and talking directly and letting you guys know. And you're also going to get a live stream once a month, just the members only, where we talk about cases and we talk about things that interest you regarding these cases. $4.99 a month. Join the membership. And if you can't do that, you can also go on our videos, press the super thanks, donate to the channel, and that helps fund the podcast. If you can't do that, that's fine too. Just hit that subscribe button, and that also helps out this channel. So the Will Polk, April Jones case, I've covered this for about 3 years now. I can't mention the case without mentioning the woman that helped me and Scarlett connect, and that's Julia Fitchett, who works with the missing. And she got us together. Scarlett was not a big fan of podcasting. She had a real bad experience with a certain podcaster. Once we got to talking, and I just listened. I didn't talk. I just listened to her. And I can remember how just she had been beating the pavement. She had just been doing everything she could to get anybody to listen about Will and April. And that phone conversation, I remember, and we've talked about it. It kind of just she sounded defeated, but she wasn't giving up. She never gave up. Never gave up. And then a wonderful man with the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, Special Agent Corey Burrow, he took the case on. He listened to Scarlett, and he worked it and worked it and worked it on his time off. And wouldn't you know, things started happening. People got arrested. Will's remains were found, and these three were charged for the murders of Will Polk and April Jones, Keith Coleman Jr., Jamie Lynn Tubbs, and Desmond Green. And then what ends up happening is the family, who's already gone from a missing person nightmare to getting anybody to listen about the nightmare to a homicide investigation to a murder trial. Now, the nightmare doesn't end. Some people think, well, the missing persons case, but then you have to transfer those feelings of, I don't know where my loved one is, to something happened to my loved one. Someone's responsible, and now we got to go through a trial. This just keeps on. It seems to be never ending. And my thoughts and prayers are with all those families that have to deal with this kind of a nightmare. I couldn't imagine it. I wouldn't want to. And to have the strength of these families to do this is immeasurable. Forget people like me who just, will pontificate or discuss cases. These families go through this every day. And I think people like Scarlett and Sandy Sanders and Heather Escalante, these people that, and they're all women, don't you know? Strong women, keep that in mind. They carry these cases and they're the advocate for their loved one. And Scarlett continues to do that. What happened with this case is in January, there was a trial, and Keith Coleman Jr., K2, Jamie Lynn Tubbs, they were found guilty of second-degree murder, desecration of corpse, and the family thought that they got justice. I mean, it's never over. It's not going to bring their loved one back, but they got justice. These two were never getting out of jail. And then the other shoe dropped. The bottom fell out. The nightmare began again all over because of a technicality that the defense team came up with, which this is where sometimes the law and I don't get along. Some of these loopholes that these crafty attorneys, will do things to purposely get these verdicts tossed and retrials, and that's what happened here. So Keith Coleman Jr., right after the end of the trial, after the convictions, he went back to court for a drug charge unrelated to the Will Polk April Jones homicide trial. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know how one had anything to do with the other. But the defense attorney for Keith Coleman argued to the judge that there was a report from a medical examiner's office that wasn't sent to him or read in a timely manner. Something to that effect. Scarlett gets into that. We're going to be talking with her. And that technicality got the convictions tossed, not only for K2 and for Jamie Lynn Tubbs, and it also postponed the trial for Desmond Green, a.k.a. Cutthroat. And so they get a new trial. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Like, are you kidding me? Now, after, can I tell you that when that trial was going on, because of everything that had happened, especially with the family, leaked photos, I'm not going to go into it, leaked photos, some of the things, their faith in the justice system with some things they were hearing was on shaky ground. And who could blame them? And on top of all of that, they have family members that are obviously concerned with their safety and well-being, because if these two get out of jail, what do you think will happen? Now, it happened to Will in April. And the thing with that is that Will and Will was just according to K2, according to Keith Coleman Jr., they had a reason in their eyes. They had a reason to kill April, which complete nonsense. There is no legitimate reason to kill anyone unless there's some kind of self-defense stuff going on. But she was killed over money or drugs or whatever. But Will Polk was, in Keith Coleman's own words, collateral damage. It's a war. So if they're going to do all these things to Will and to April, if they have the opportunity to get back out and taste free air, what do you think they're going to do to the other people or to other citizens? So this is totally just ridiculous for the family. It's always great to talk to Scarlett. We've become friends, and we talked to her. And in this interview, you're going to hear the entirety of the story, the things that the family's gone through, their concerns, and how this is all playing out in real time. So without further ado, here is my interview with Will's cousin. He considered her an aunt. Here's my interview with Scarlett Cambell on injustice for Will Polk. Take a listen. So today we're talking with Scarlett Cambell. She is Will's second cousin, but more like an aunt. And we're talking about the upcoming trial, the retrial of Keith Coleman and Jamie Tubbs for the murder of Will Polk and, of course, April Jones. So can you tell us what happened? Because when you guys thought this was all finished, the family was celebrating the victory of knowing that the people that heinously killed Will were going to spend the rest of their lives in jail, and then they're not. So explain to everybody how this kind of transpired.
Right. Well, I think it was, and I can't be quoted on the date, but it was in a time frame of 3 to 4 weeks after conviction. Keith Coleman Jr. had to go back before the judge on some drug trafficking charges. When he went back before the judge on the drug trafficking charges, somehow he walked out that afternoon with an awarded retrial in the murder of Will and April that a 12-person jury of his peers found him guilty for and gave him 2 life sentences to serve. Now, we, the family, were not aware of this hearing, much less the outcome of it. But because I stay on top of that telephone, blowing it up, because, history repeats itself. You have to just keep calling to find something out. It was out on the streets that, it was actually out on the streets that he had went back to court on drug charges and that they granted him bond and that he was out. Well, of course, Will's sisters and mother and father went into orbit thinking that he was out, and I was like, no, this, no matter how you chalk that up, that can't be right. You don't murder someone and dismember them and walk out on drug charges. So I picked the phone up and I started calling around and finally got in touch with someone who told me that he was indeed granted the retrial on that day when he went back before the judge on the drug trafficking charges. Now, how that, Steve, works out that you go for a hearing on drug trafficking charges and you walk out with a retrial on 2 murder charges is still a mystery to me. There were technicalities involved. The technicalities were the defense found a quote-unquote loophole where the prosecuting attorney sent an email before trial to the defense attorney, and the defense attorney said that he did not receive the medical examiner's report in a timely manner. According to the timestamp on the email, he did indeed receive it in a timely manner. He just did not open the attachment, which, in my personal opinion, was a deliberate failure on his part. But, you know, I can't prove that, and that's what matters in a court of law. So here we are at retrial.
So it has enough. So just to recap, Keith Coleman Jr., also known as K2, was going in for a drug charge, unrelated to Will's case, and this is where it comes out that this medical examiner's report wasn't opened at a deemable time, and it's because of this that the verdicts were vacated and a retrial was issued.
That is my understanding. That was the explanation that was given to the prosecuting attorney and to the family.
It's not that this medical examiner's report would have changed the outcome of the case. I'm sure that the jury heard it, but it's because the mail wasn't opened and because it wasn't procedurally followed through. This grants both Coleman and Tubbs a new trial?
Correct.
Wow.
Coleman was awarded a new trial that day, and that was back in late January, early February. And then Jamie was awarded a retrial about 2.5 weeks ago. We did not, the prosecution, because she is getting ready for upcoming trial, had not had the time to contact me yet. And day before yesterday, Jamie Lynn petitioned the court for severance, so she could have a separate trial from Keith Coleman, but she was not awarded that severance, so they will be tried again on September the 5th. Trial will be September the 5th through, I think, the 8th. And if it, last time it was open court, anybody could come, as long as they abided by the court rules and regulations on dress codes and silence. So I feel like it will probably be open court again this time also.
So I guess it's, so everybody knows, I'm sure that people that have followed this know that, so Keith Coleman Jr. and Jamie Lynn Tubbs were both tried as co-defendants in the first trial, and so she was looking for separation. The judge denied separation, so I guess that's good, right? That bodes well, I guess. The other thing is Desmond Green is awaiting trial, and his trial was supposed to take place after their trial, and so I'm assuming has been pushed back because of their trial having to be retried.
That is our assumption. I have not verified that with the state attorney, with the DA's office. I have not verified that, but that is the assumption because it was scheduled to be after Jamie Lynn and K2's trial last time.
So here you guys have gone from battling a missing persons case, which if it wasn't for you and a wonderful guy by the name of Corey Burrows, who took this upon himself to listen to you and to take a look at this case, we go from a missing persons case to a homicide trial. You guys go, all the family goes through all these emotions. You get a verdict, and then you finally get to lay Will to rest, and then smack, you guys got to do all of this over again. How is, first of all, how is the family dealing with all of this? And are you concerned as a family that, what happens if this trial doesn't go the way the first one went, and these people are, again, they're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So they have, that's everybody's right in the United States. But are you guys concerned about what happens if, this thing doesn't work out the way you want? Your family, is your family in danger? Like, how are you guys dealing with all this?
We pray a lot. It's hard. It's ripping us apart at the seams. The family is in shambles. We don't know from one day to the next what the next surprise is around the corner. But we pray a lot. As far as fear, that's a given. He's got 2 sisters that are young. And, if Keith Coleman and Jamie Lynn will do what they did to Will, especially if they get away with it, there's no doubt in our mind that they will do it again. At first, after 4 years, Steve, the fear of anything happening to us, I'm not going to say that it subsides, but you prepare mentally, emotionally, physically. You prepare. But our family is just as worried about the other families out there that this will affect if they do not get locked up for the rest of their lives. Because if they get away with this in any capacity, it is going to be a direct line to their warped psyche that they got away with it not once but twice before, so they can get away with it again. So in reality, it's not just our safety that we're worried about. We worry about everybody around us, anybody that they come in contact with. If you can murder and dismember someone for quote unquote being collateral damage, which is what K2 described Will as being in the first trial, then who else can be collateral damage?
Right, and I remember looking at the perp walks after the first conviction, and none of them seemed to have any remorse. If I remember correctly, Jamie Lynn winked at the cameras, so there's zero remorse for what they've done. So you're right in that regard. If they were probably allowed to resume normal life outside of prison bars, there's no telling what they could do again. And I'm jaded to the fact that we know that they're guilty of this. Again, they have reasonable doubt and they're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, but I'm jaded, and if they were to get out again, there's no telling what they would do. Have you become numb to all this?
I have, Steve. I think I'm a religious woman. I'm not a Bible thumper, or what people refer to as Bible thumpers, but I am a religious woman. And I really do think that God has made a way to numb my emotions and my mind for survival. At some point, once so much is put on a person's emotions and a person's mind, there's a breaking point. And it's, as with the death of any family member, if it's a situation to where you just cannot emotionally deal with the loss, somehow God makes a way to kind of numb you. And after so many disappointments and so much hee-hawing, if you will, in the case, and lies and, false leads and everything, it's just now almost whatever's thrown my way, I believe it. I believe it. No matter how ridiculous or redundant it sounds, I believe it.
So the trial is September the 5th, and again, we don't know the status of Desmond Green's trial. I know that this wasn't over for you guys, even had the convictions not been overturned and a new trial granted. This you guys weren't finished by a long shot, and I guess I wanted to ask though real quick about Will. I remember I watched a little bit. We did a promo on the upcoming podcast, and I just wanted to touch on something. Are they still looking for the remains of Will? I know that you guys got the some remains, but there's still some out there. Are they still looking for his remains?
Well, we were told at the end of last trial, which was in January of this year, that they would definitely now be continuing to search for any remains of Will and anything they could find of April. However, if that has happened, we have not been notified of it. To our knowledge, there has not been since then any kind of search or investigation into finding any more remains.
Last question, and it's probably a two-part, and it might be a little lengthy. You have carried Will's case for 4+ years. You've been the champion leading the charge when nobody else would listen to you. You've gone, again, you guys have gone from a missing persons case to a homicide case to a murder trial, now a retrial, and from an outsider or another family that's going through the very early processes of this, what would you tell the other, because there's no book on this, what would you tell another family that's just beginning their fight, how to even begin doing what you've managed to do through all of the trials, the obstacles, the nobody listening? What would you tell other families about how to stay with it?
Yeah, that would be lengthy, Steve, because my explanation for that would be all over everywhere. I guess I could begin with how our family, our ancestors raised us. They raised us, Steve. We're poor. We're a very poverty-ridden state. We're a poverty-ridden family. I'm not ashamed to admit that. So we were raised to understand two things. You fight for what you believe in. You don't. The only thing that you have is your word is your bond. And I guess it was 4 days after Will went missing, I got on my knees in my bedroom and I prayed and I promised Will that I'd never give up on him. And my word is my bond. That's how I was raised. My word is my bond, and if you believe in it, don't give up. Never sign your name to nothing that you can't be proud of. That's how we were raised, and that's absolutely the rules that I went by. Family's our bond. Family's everything. When we would have to go out and hunt for food and raise gardens to feed our babies, the one thing that we did have was family. And that's just not an option. Giving up on family is not an option. No matter what they're doing, where they're at, right or wrong, you don't give up on family. And I mean, that was etched in stone from the beginning of our time. That's how all of us were raised, and that's how we've raised our children. You know, as far as the avenues, let me just tell anyone that's going through this, is it's going to take you down so many avenues that you thought you would never travel down. It's going to be dead end over and over and over and over again. There are going to be obstacles that you never imagined, from people that you don't know to people that you should trust most, which is law enforcement. It doesn't matter who tells you what. You know your family member better than anybody. And if there is something amiss, you know it. Don't back down. Don't surrender. Don't let anybody convince you of any different. We knew 3 months into Will missing, with law enforcement still telling us that he just ran off, that it was something wrong. He would never do that. And if you feel that in your soul about your family member, you kick whatever stalls you have to kick. You scream from the rooftop. I slept on a couple of doorsteps and told them I wasn't leaving until somebody listened to me. Whatever it takes, that's what you do. Just never compromise and never forget where you came from and what the fiber of your being is really about. That's my best advice. Never ever give up. Never ever give in. Never ever forget what you're fighting for. If you don't fight for you and yours, if you hadn't been in it long enough to figure it out, I'm telling you now, ain't nobody else.
Well, I've told you this countless times. I don't mind repeating myself. I think that you are, not that you're trying to be, you're a role model for cases like this, because you, like I said, you've carried this case on your back all these years, and I think that a lot of people will listen to this and they will get, they might get the courage to do the very same thing you did, and the strength to not give up. And I think that's a testament to not only your family, but to you, and you carrying Will's case all the way to the finish line. As we wrap up, the trial starts again September the 5th, and that is the courthouse in Quitman County, correct?
Correct. And if I could interject one more thing, Steve. I want everybody out there to remember, my grandfather told me something a long time ago when I was a little girl. He told me to never let anyone intimidate me, because everyone has a boss. That is pivotal in what you're trying to get done with your family member. people, if you are not getting results going through the chain of command, the key word in that whole sentence is chain. There is always a link above the link that you're trying to get results from. If they will not help you, if they will not go above them.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you so much for taking your time, and we will continue to follow this case until the very end. Thank you so much, Scarlett.
Thank you.
To say Scarlett's family has endured a lot is an understatement, and this is just one story of thousands of other families that go through a similar thing. Maybe with the exception of this loophole that took the verdicts and rescinding them and starting all over, just adds to the hell that these families go through. Not to mention the what if scenarios about if the verdict doesn't come back like it did in the first trial, and this is what these families have to go through, and it's not only is it eye-opening, it's tragic. The grim truth about this particular case as it continues is it's not over for this family. Like, they've gotten answers to the questions. Yes. They were able to lay to rest some of Will. They didn't get everything of Will, and April's remains are still out there somewhere. But they're still going through this nightmare. And let's not forget that after you've got the trial of K2 and you've got the trial of Tubbs, you still have Desmond Green's trial and appeals and sentencing and all this other thing. So we still have a long way to go, and we will continue to follow this trial, this case, until the very end. If you want to support them, and she said it in the interview, if you are a true believer in this cause, go down to the courthouse and sit with the family on September the 5th, and maybe one of those days during the trial, and sit and be with the family, because they're going to need all the help they can get. They're going to need all the prayers they can get. And it would just be nice to see other people standing in solidarity with the family and give them the ability to carry on this struggle. Comment down below, too, and let them know that you're supporting them and that you're with them and you're praying for them as they continue this fight to get justice for Will Polk. And that's what matters here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in again. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the podcast, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the Grim Truth Podcast or any other content related to the missing. Like, comment, share these videos, get them out there as we continue to be a voice for the voiceless in search of the truth. As always, I'm Steve Stone, and this has been the Grim Truth Podcast.